For centuries, the Galactic Council ruled the stars, believing themselves to be the most advanced civilizations in the universe. They had mapped almost every corner of the galaxy, recorded the rise and fall of countless species, and ensured that no unknown threats remained. But then, an unusual signal came from the farthest edge of space, from a region long abandoned and forgotten. The signal was precise, repeating itself in a pattern that no natural phenomenon could create. The Council's scientists examined it carefully, and their conclusion sent fear through the highest ranks of power. It was human. Humanity had been a mystery, a name whispered in forgotten records and old war stories. No one truly knew what had happened to them. Some believed they had been wiped out in a war long ago, while others thought they had simply vanished, unable to survive the harshness of space. There were no ruins, no remains, only rumors of a species that had once challenged the most powerful empires before disappearing without a trace. But now, the signal was proof that something had survived. The Council quickly assembled a fleet to investigate. Their ships, armed and ready for anything, moved toward the unknown. As they approached the origin of the signal, their sensors detected something massive hiding in the darkness, a structure unlike anything they had ever seen. It was ancient, yet perfectly intact, floating in the void like a silent guardian. The Council's flagship sent a transmission, but there was no response. The station remained lifeless, cold, and unwelcoming. A team of elite soldiers was sent inside, moving carefully through the silent halls of the forgotten station. The air was thin but breathable, the corridors dark and endless. Strange markings covered the walls, symbols that had not been seen in thousands of years. As they moved deeper, their footsteps echoed through the emptiness, their lights flickering against metal surfaces that seemed untouched by time. Then, suddenly, the power came on. A deep hum vibrated through the station, and lights flickered to life, casting eerie shadows around them. The soldiers froze, gripping their weapons as a screen in front of them lit up. It displayed a simple message in the universal language, a message that sent a chill through their bodies. We remember. Panic spread through the fleet as the station's systems activated. Ships detected sudden energy surges, and alarms blared as an unknown force disrupted their communications. The Council's admiral demanded answers, but there were none. The soldiers inside the station tried to retreat, but the doors sealed shut behind them. Security systems they could not see, could not understand, had awakened. The fleet, now desperate, prepared to fire on the station, but before they could, something even more terrifying happened. An object emerged from the shadows of deep space. At first, it looked like an asteroid, a piece of debris drifting aimlessly. But then, its surface shifted, revealing patterns and structures too precise to be natural. It was a ship. No records mentioned anything like it, no known design matched its structure. It moved without visible propulsion, without sound, yet it was fast, too fast. Within moments, it was among them, and every attempt to scan it failed. The Council's flagship sent a final transmission, "Identify yourself." But the response was not in words, it was in action. Without warning, the unknown ship released a pulse of energy. It wasn't an attack, but something more calculated, more precise. Within seconds, every ship in the fleet shut down. Weapons, shields, engines, everything went offline. The soldiers trapped inside the station could only watch as their fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, was reduced to powerless husks floating in space. Then, the ship sent a message of its own, a message that would be remembered for generations to come. Humanity never left. We were waiting. The fleet drifted helplessly as the human ship turned, disappearing into the void as quickly as it had arrived. The station powered down once more, returning to its eternal silence. The soldiers were released, unharmed but shaken beyond words. When they returned to the Council, their reports sent waves of fear across the galaxy. Humanity had not been defeated, nor had they disappeared. They had simply stepped into the darkness, watching, waiting for the right moment. And now they had returned. The Council, for the first time in its long history, faced an enemy they could not understand. The greatest empires, the most powerful fleets, all seemed insignificant against a force that had remained hidden for centuries. The question that haunted them all was simple, yet terrifying. Had humanity come for peace or for revenge? The Galactic Council had seen many wars, many threats, and many rising empires that eventually fell into dust. They believed they had control over the galaxy, that no unknown force could shake their power. But all of that changed when the first human ship arrived. It came from the darkest edge of space, a place long abandoned, where no life was supposed to exist. At first, the sensors barely registered it, just a faint disturbance, a shadow moving through the void. Then, without warning, it was there. A massive, silent warship, unlike anything ever recorded in galactic history, drifted into view, its dark hull absorbing the light of nearby stars. There was no communication, no identification, only the terrifying realization that something had returned from the forgotten corners of the universe. The Galactic Council immediately sent a fleet to intercept. Dozens of ships, each equipped with the best technology the galaxy had to offer, moved in, surrounding the unknown vessel. Their weapons were charged, their shields raised, but the human ship did not react. It remained motionless, its design unfamiliar, its presence unsettling. The commanders hesitated. No species, no empire had ever built a ship like this. It had no visible engines, no energy readings that made sense. It was as if it had appeared from nowhere, defying the very laws of physics. The Council's admiral demanded a response. A transmission was sent, a simple request for identification, for intentions. But the ship remained silent. Minutes passed, then hours. Fear spread through the fleet. Some believed it was a ghost ship, a relic from a lost civilization. Others whispered that it was something worse. Then finally, the ship moved. It was not an attack, not a warning, but a slow and deliberate shift. Without any visible propulsion, it began to glide forward, its surface changing, revealing intricate patterns and glowing lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. Every attempt to scan it failed. The sensors could not penetrate its structure. The fleet held position, waiting for any sign of hostility. Then, the ship did something no one expected. It transmitted a message. Just 2 words, broadcasted across every channel in the universal language, sending a chill through every being who heard it. We remember. The meaning was unclear, but the fear it created was undeniable. The Council's leaders, watching from their secure chambers, felt something they had not felt in centuries: helplessness. The records of humanity were ancient, fragmented, and incomplete. They had been a species of war, of innovation, of destruction. But they had vanished long ago, erased from history. Some believed they had been wiped out, while others thought they had fled into the void, never to return. Now, those lost whispers had returned as reality. Humanity had not been defeated. They had been waiting. Panic spread across the fleet as the human ship advanced. The admiral gave the order: fire a warning shot. Show them the power of the Council. A single energy blast was fired, aimed just ahead of the unknown vessel. It should have been enough to make them stop, to force them to communicate. But what happened next was beyond anyone's understanding. The blast never reached its target. Instead, it simply disappeared. No explosion, no impact, nothing. The energy was just gone, erased from existence. Before the fleet could react, their systems began failing. Lights flickered, weapons powered down, engines stuttered. The human ship had not fired a single shot, yet the most advanced warships in the galaxy were now floating helplessly in space. Then, a second message came through, this time more chilling than the first: we are not your enemy. But we are not your prey. The meaning was clear. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, not as allies, but as something else, something beyond the understanding of the Galactic Council. As the fleet drifted, unable to move, the human ship continued forward, ignoring them as if they were nothing more than insects in its path. It did not attack. It did not explain itself. It simply passed through, heading deeper into the heart of the galaxy. The Council watched in silence, knowing one thing with absolute certainty: the balance of power had just changed forever. The Galactic Council had ruled for centuries, believing they were the supreme force in the universe. They had fought wars, crushed rebellions, and silenced entire civilizations that dared to challenge them. Yet, when the whispers of humanity's return spread, they did not act. At first, they ignored the rumors, dismissing them as myths. But then, a name forgotten by time began appearing in intercepted messages, spoken in hushed voices by terrified species across the stars. Humans. The Council's spies reported secret meetings between empires that had once been enemies, all discussing the same thing: something was coming, something that could not be stopped. The Council still hesitated, convinced it was nothing more than fear and paranoia. Then, one by one, their fleets started disappearing. It began in the outer systems, where military patrols reported strange readings before vanishing without a trace. There were no distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. Entire warships, some of the most powerful in the galaxy, simply ceased to exist. At first, the Council blamed pirates or internal conflicts, but soon the disappearances spread deeper into their territories. Their greatest battleships were falling silent, their outposts abandoned overnight, their enemies emboldened. Panic began to take hold. They sent their best generals, their most advanced fleets, to investigate. None returned. The whispers grew louder. The ghosts of humanity have awakened. The Council, now desperate, declared war before they even saw their enemy. Messages were sent across the galaxy, warning all species to prepare for battle. Fleets were mobilized, weapons loaded, defenses strengthened. Yet, still, no enemy appeared. The war had begun, but the battlefield was empty. It was as if the shadows themselves were at war with the Council. Then, finally, the first message from humanity came. It was not a declaration, not a threat, but a whisper sent across every communication channel, a message that echoed in every language. You betrayed us. You erased us. Now, we return. The Council's leaders, once confident in their rule, now sat in silence, realizing the truth they had buried long ago had come back to haunt them. Humanity had not been destroyed in a great war. They had not fallen to their own weakness. They had been betrayed. Centuries ago, the Council had seen humanity's rise and feared what they could become. So, they conspired, turned their allies against them, and cast them into the void, believing they would never return. But humanity had survived. And now, they had come back not with grand speeches or open battles, but with silence, precision, and an unstoppable force no one could fight. The Council launched its greatest fleet, tens of thousands of ships sent to confront the unseen enemy. They waited in the cold darkness of space, their weapons aimed at nothing, their sensors searching for a target. Then, it happened. Without warning, their ships began shutting down. Entire fleets lost power in an instant. The human warships, still hidden in the void, had hacked the most advanced defenses in the galaxy like they were nothing. The Council's forces were defenseless, trapped inside their own dead ships. And then humanity spoke again. This is not your war. It is your punishment. Before the Council could respond, their worlds fell into chaos. Key planets lost power, defense systems collapsed, and entire governments were thrown into darkness. Humanity had not fired a single shot, yet they had already won. The war, which had begun with a whisper, ended before it truly started. The Council, now powerless, realized too late that they were never in control. The whispers of humanity had become reality, and the galaxy would never be the same again. For centuries, the Galactic Council had shaped history, controlling what knowledge was remembered and what was forgotten. They erased threats, silenced rebellions, and manipulated the truth to ensure their rule remained unchallenged. But there was one secret, one truth so dangerous that they did more than erase it, they buried it deep beneath lies, hoping it would never return. That secret was humanity. Once, long ago, humans had stood among the greatest civilizations of the galaxy. They were warriors, explorers, innovators, and something more, something the Council feared. They were unpredictable. Unlike the other species, bound by tradition and cautious diplomacy, humans adapted, evolved, and fought in ways that defied logic. So, when they rose too fast, became too powerful, the Council made a decision. Humanity had to be removed. It was not a war, not in the way history remembers wars. There were no great battles, no heroic last stands. Instead, the Council turned allies against them, spread lies, cut off their resources, sabotaged their technology. When humanity fought back, they were labeled as threats, monsters who could not be trusted. The final blow came when the Council unleashed an experimental weapon, something never used before or since. In a single moment, every human world went dark. No one knew exactly what the weapon did, only that it left nothing behind. No ruins, no survivors, just silence. And so, the Council declared victory. Humanity was gone. The past was rewritten. The name of their species was removed from records, their achievements stolen, their existence turned into myth. The secret was buried. But secrets have a way of resurfacing. It started small. Unexplained power fluctuations in deep space stations. Ships disappearing without distress signals. Data systems showing errors that no scientist could explain. Then, the whispers began. Smugglers, mercenaries, and outcasts spoke of something moving in the void, silent ships, unseen weapons, a force that did not exist. At first, the Council dismissed it as nonsense. Then, one of their highest security prisons went offline. It wasn't attacked. It wasn't bombed. It simply vanished. Entire buildings disappeared as if they had never existed. No alarms, no survivors, no wreckage. Just an empty space where a fortress once stood. That was when the Council began to panic. Investigations were launched, fleets sent to patrol the outer territories. Still, there was no trace of an enemy. But then, a transmission came, a signal sent across all frequencies, impossible to block. It was not a demand, not a warning. It was a message spoken in the forgotten language of a lost species. We have returned. The Council's leaders, many of whom had inherited power from those who had destroyed humanity, felt fear unlike anything they had ever known. The secret they had buried was no longer hidden. The truth they erased was now coming for them. Desperate, the Council sent an armada to the source of the transmission, a dark sector of space long abandoned. The fleet arrived, weapons charged, prepared for anything. But space was empty. There was no enemy, no ships, no signs of an invasion. Just silence. Then, all at once, the fleet's systems failed. Shields collapsed, engines shut down, weapons became useless. And in the darkness, something moved. Ships, human ships, emerged from the void, their designs unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They had no visible weapons, no energy signatures, yet the fleet's commanders knew this was the end. A final message came, not in anger, not in revenge, but in cold, undeniable truth. You tried to erase us. But we remember. One by one, the Council's warships lost control. Communications were hijacked. Worlds fell into chaos. The truth could no longer be hidden. Humanity had not died. They had waited. And now, as their ships advanced, as the Council faced the consequences of their betrayal, they realized the terrifying reality: you cannot bury something that refuses to stay dead. The Galactic Council had prepared for war. Every fleet, every outpost, every weapon was primed for the battle they believed was coming. The name of their enemy was whispered in fear: humanity. A species long thought to be extinct, erased from history by the Council's own hand, had returned. Their ships, dark and silent, had appeared on the edges of known space, moving with purpose but without hostility. Yet fear ruled the Council's decisions. They assumed humanity had come for revenge. They assumed an attack was inevitable. And so, they fired the first shot. A massive fleet, armed with the deadliest weapons in the galaxy, was sent to intercept the approaching human vessels. No warnings were given. No attempts at diplomacy were made. The Council believed that wiping them out now would correct the mistakes of the past. Energy blasts lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward their targets. Entire starships unleashed their full firepower. But something impossible happened: nothing hit. The human ships did not dodge. They did not raise shields. The attacks simply disappeared. The Council's admirals watched in horror as their weapons became useless, their might reduced to nothing. Then, before they could react, every system in their fleet shut down. Engines, weapons, communications, all dead. Their warships, the pride of the galaxy, were now nothing more than lifeless metal drifting in space. Panic spread across the Council's forces. Their most advanced technology was failing against an enemy that had not even fired a single shot. The humans could have destroyed them in that moment, wiped them out without resistance. But they didn't. Instead, a transmission came through calm, controlled, and in a language long forgotten by the Council, but now painfully familiar: "We are not your enemy." The Council's leaders, watching from the safety of their homeworld, were frozen in silence. They had expected war, destruction, vengeance. But humanity had offered something else: understanding. The realization struck like a crushing weight. The humans were not here to conquer. They were not here to destroy. They had only come to speak. But the Council had responded with violence, and now their fleets were at humanity's mercy. For the first time in centuries, they were powerless. The human ships moved forward, weaving effortlessly through the disabled Council fleet, making no aggressive moves. Then, another message was sent, this time directed at every world, every station, every living being in the galaxy. It was a simple statement, yet it changed everything. "We remember your betrayal. We remember your fear. But we are not here to repeat history. We are here to end it." The meaning was clear. Humanity had returned, not for revenge, not for war. The Council, built on centuries of fear and control, had been given a choice: continue their old ways and face extinction, or step into a new future. As the human ships vanished back into the darkness, leaving the Council's armada helpless in the void, one truth remained: the galaxy would never be the same again.